Hello, everybody. I wanted to welcome you to this session that's entitled Becoming a Person of Influence. We want to welcome you to the 2020 Workforce Development Conference. It is my pleasure to be with you. My name is Kevin Wayne Johnson. Some of you I'm meeting, of course, for the very first time, and others of you I have the pleasure of having known through different venues, different conferences and conventions, and it is truly an honor. And I'm very humbled to have been selected as one of the speakers for this dynamic conference. It would be nice to be there together in person, but of course we are having to improvise. But the training and the learning and the tools for your toolbox will still be very valuable for your time and for your effort and everything that you're doing to make this world a much better place. I reside from Richmond, Virginia. That's my hometown. I currently live in Clarksville, Maryland, which is halfway between our nation's capital and Washington, D.C. And it is an absolute joy and privilege to be with you and to have the opportunity to share with you different nuggets and leadership principles and strategies that we will learn from one another as we become and continue to become persons of influence. And that is positive influence. That's what this is all about. So you have been provided with a participant guide, and we will spend the next 50 minutes or so walking through this guide and having an opportunity to learn together different nuggets and principles and strategies that will help us all in our leadership journey, whether it's frontline, mid-level, or senior level. We'll get through this together as we go through. And of course, all of my contact information will be available for you as a part of this wonderful conference, and the men and women that are leading it and coordinating it, they've done a great job. I'll be available to answer phone calls and respond to emails per your request as we go forward. So again, welcome. I'm really, really thankful, really, really grateful for the opportunity. I am the founder and chief executive officer of the Johnson Leadership Group. I founded the company about 2 years ago, following 34 years of total service with the federal government. I reside from the Department of Defense and the Department of Treasury as a mid-level and senior level leader for most of my career. I would say 20 out of the 34 years. And it is truly a delight to be able to now share with men and women in the workforce, whether it's government, corporations, churches, nonprofits, and even academia, our colleges and universities, sharing these principles and helping us all to be better leaders with the ultimate goal of being people who are taking the lead and making the world a much better place. So let me direct you now to the contents there in your participant guide. I do apologize in advance. The pages are not numbered at the bottom, but if you would turn over to the page that has the table of contents, it will be on your left side, and you'll see what we will run through together during this time. Becoming a person of influence. Very, very important, because ultimately we want our influence to be positive and not negative. So I've sort of introduced the topic to you and shared with you where we're going to go. We're going to start out really with 6 questions, which gives us all the opportunity to do an introspection and a reflection on who we are as leaders, where we want to go, how we want to lead. And those would be the types of issues that will come up in your mind as we go through this. Whether you actually have the title or the position of a leader or not, you are still a leader. You're a leader right where you are. In your heart, as a part of your DNA, you are a leader. And these principles apply within our family unit, our social and civic organizations. It also applies in our church, our neighborhood. Really everywhere that we go, these principles definitely apply. And then after we sort of look at this inventory, if you would, self-reflection and introspection, we're going to then dive into the word influence, and we'll take a look at 9 or 10 different characteristics and attributes that leaders demonstrate as a result of being a person of influence. Again, the word becoming is very, very key and very, very instrumental to what we're doing, because it's an ongoing process. Leadership never ends. Getting better never ends. Development doesn't stop. Something that we always work toward and something that we're always trying to achieve. It's very, very, very key, very important. So on that note, turn over in your participant guide to section number 1, and it's the introduction. And I'm going to be walking you through this and sharing with you what we're doing and why it's going to be very, very helpful in terms of your journey in becoming a person of influence. You're going to see that you'll have an opportunity to fill in the blanks. All you have to do is just take out your pen or your pencil or any other marker that you may be using and just fill in the blank, and then we will go forward with our discussion. So just follow along with me. So session number 1, under introduction, leadership is, as a matter of fact, I'll go as far to say that leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. Everything we do, verbal and nonverbal, influences others within our sphere of influence. So it's very, very important and very key to keep that in mind and to remember that as you go forward. It's either positive or it's negative. Hopefully, by the time you pick up these nuggets, we'll realize how important it is to have a positive influence on others as a result of our leadership. But that is definitely a true statement. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Take a look at these quotes here in the middle of the page. The first one says that the true measure of leadership is influence. That's where I get it from, right there. That's the law of influence. And that's pretty much how it works, and the effectiveness of it all and how the outcomes will be played. Also, you'll see here in the middle of your page that increasing your influence is really synonymous with increasing your leadership. That is, your ability to lead, your effectiveness in leading, your ability to be able to discern what's going on all around you, and to be very, very effective. So it's very, very important. Increasing your influence is synonymous with increasing your leadership. Turn with me over to the very next page. You'll see at the very top of the page, it says the goals for this training or for this session or for this workshop or seminar. Number 1 is to help you better understand influence. Very, very key and very, very important.
Cindy, anybody else from the person group?
Yes, sir.
I have, you guys are already on when we log in, so the PowerPoint is loaded into the WebEx session. So this is a tech thing. And you load the PowerPoint into the WebEx meeting, right?
That's what Cindy and Richie and Ashley do. The tech team does that.
Okay. Now, what I've done is I have not downloaded the actual PowerPoint files to my computer because I know I can access them if I need to. If I want to look at them, I can just go to the share site that Diana set up for us. And as I scroll through, if I scroll through that PowerPoint, make it full screen, scroll through like I'm in a classroom, using it for the presentation, that video, when I scroll to that screen, it just starts playing. And I'm wondering if you have ever seen it do that inside WebEx.
WebEx will not play animations or videos in the PowerPoint. That's why we have to do it separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of weird, but I mean, I don't know if TSA has paid for access to this.
So that's very, very key and very, very important to remember and to understand as you go forward. Next is number 2 is training is to help you increase your influence with others, people all around you. Remember, as leaders, our job is to make sure that we are leading others, taking care of others, addressing their particular need, developing others. That's really what it's all about. So it helps us to increase our influence with others, heighten our awareness of what their needs are, their cares, and their desires. Very key and very, very important. Okay, so let's move into what we call the influence inventory. So again, self-reflection, introspection, a chance to really ask ourselves different questions along the line of how we're going about influencing. Very, very key and very, very important. So I'm going to walk you through 6 questions, and it's sort of like a who, what, where, when, and why as it relates to influence, just to get you to think about all of the different things that are going on in our lives and the number of different people that we touch in a number of different ways. Okay, so let us begin. First question is this: who do I influence? Who? You have a family, you have coworkers, you have peers, you have a boss. Some of us have a staff, children, neighbors, other people in the community, civic organizations, social organizations. So the question is, who do I influence? Very, very key and very important. So here's the principle. As a leader, I attract who I am, not who I want. Very key principle. Think about that now. I attract who I am, not who I want. And so what I would like for you to do now is just take about a minute. It shouldn't take that long. Right there in your workbook, jot down the 3 characteristics of a person that you would like to have on your team. 3 characteristics of a person that you would like on your team. Remember, as a leader, we attract who we are, not who we want. So take about a minute and jot down those 3. And in just about a minute, I'll share with you who mine are. Many of us will probably come up with the same characteristics and attributes, but it's really interesting how all of this works and how it all comes together. And you'll see that there are going to be some consistencies in what we're doing and how we're going about doing it. Is really interesting. So while you're writing your 3, I'm going to share with you what my 3 are, and my 3 are actually in order. So here are my 3 in order. Number 1 is trust. Yeah, that's a big one. I've got to be able to trust you, but guess what? Trust is earned. So I first have to earn your trust. But on the other end, for me, a top characteristic of a person that I would want on my team is trust. The second one is character. Character is just who you are from head to toe. No matter what's going on and what the situation is, where you might be, your character pretty much remains the same. And then last but not least, I have mine in order, is honesty. Very important and very, very key for what it is that we're doing. So trust, character, honesty. I'm pretty sure some of you have probably written down the exact same ones, and that's okay. It's good. And then there are going to be some other ones as well. So if you have an opportunity, you can be more than happy to share with one another, exchange notes, but it's very, very important for you to remember that you are going to attract who you are, not who you want. Okay, let's go over to the very next page. And I'm going to ask you to also do the same. This is a workshop. This is intended to be very interactive, if you would. And so I am going to ask you to now take a look at the top of the next page. And the question is, do I influence? And take a look at each of these scenarios. And I'm going to ask you to circle only one of these scenarios. So do you influence leaders or followers? Do you influence thinkers or doers? Big picture or little picture people? All the way down to the very end. Just take about a minute or two and just circle. Remember, we're taking an introspection and a reflection before we actually dive into the content. And so I want you to think about the types of people that you influence. Positive people or negative people. Successful people or unsuccessful people. Both of those terms are subjective. What I consider to be a successful person might be totally different from what you see as a successful person. So it's very subjective. It's based upon our perception and our views, which are different, and that's okay. Casual or passionate people. In other words, people who are a little bit more laid back, or people who are a little bit more in terms of go-getters. All right. Givers or takers. And then last but not least, eagles or turkeys. And just in case you're wondering what the difference is. So both of these are from the same family. They're both considered birds. They both have wings. One lives at a very high altitude and flies solo. And one pretty much stays to the ground and travels in bunches. So one travels and elevates very, very high beyond where we can see helicopters fly. And one just stays on the ground, can't really elevate, and is usually in the company with many, many others. So that's the difference. The question is, do you influence eagles or turkeys? Okay. And again, this is an opportunity for you, if you get a chance, to sort of share with others and get a view in terms of what might be going on and how you might be looking at your leadership style and how you influence based upon the type of people that you find it easier to influence. Okay. All right, let's go to number 2. The next question is how? How do I influence others? And the principle here that governs number 2 is how I influence people will determine how many, how long, and how effectively I influence them. How many, how long, and how effectively I influence them. Now, there are many, many different methods of influence. Some work, some don't work. It depends on the organization. It depends on the culture. It depends on a lot of different factors that are going on in all of our lives. But it's very, very interesting, if you would, as we go through this list. Some of these will resonate with you and others of these may not. But I wanted to walk you through these to kind of see and get your perspectives on question number 2, and that is, how do I influence others? So here are some methods of influence, and we're going to go from worst to first. So the first one I give you is not so good. Then the next one is a little bit better, but still not good. And then so on and so on and so on until we get to the best one. Now, I don't want to jump ahead of me, so I'll wait. Okay. So the first one is force. There's just no choice in the decision. You're going to do what I say, and you have no say in it. Now, that's a military culture that men and women make a choice to survive in and to live in. The majority of us don't have to live in that culture. I understand it because I'm the son of a U.S. Marine, but it doesn't resonate well with people who are outside of that culture. But the message you're sending is that we have no choice in the decision. The next one is intimidation. Intimidation is basically just my way or the highway. All right, I will intimidate you. You're going to do what I ask you to do. Better yet, you're going to do what I tell you to do, and that's just the way it is. Number 3 is manipulation. There's a winner and a loser. We don't necessarily want to be in that position where somebody loses and somebody wins. Ideally, we want to create an environment where it's win-win. It doesn't always happen that way, but we refer to that as manipulation, which leads us to the next one. Number 4 is positional. So we follow someone because we have to. Some of us have worked for bosses and we have to. When we were children, we followed our parents because of their position, because we have to. And then as we got older, then we were able to move out from that particular leadership style. Takes us to number 5, which is exchange. So when there's a mutual exchange, then we both win something, whatever it might be, but it's mutual. You could actually write the word mutual exchange in there as well. Head on over to the top of the next page. Number 6 is persuasion. We follow because we want to. We've built trust, respect, honesty, collaboration, cooperation. Now it's all about persuasion. We follow because we actually want to. And then last but not least, this is the one that I almost jumped to and I wanted to wait. This is the top of the line, respect. We follow because of the request and the respect of the influencer. That one is very key and very, very important. And ideally, that's where we want to get to. We want to get to the point where we respect those that we are influencing and those that we are looking to follow us and be within that sphere of influence. Very, very key. Very, very, very important. All right, number 3, third question. How many do I influence? And here's the principle here. As a leader, the number of people who follow is based upon my level of influence. Very simple. The number of people who follow is based upon my influence. Take a look right under that. So everyone influences someone. There's no doubt about it. Every one of us in our daily lives, in everything that we do, we're influencing somebody. They may not say anything. They may just be watching, observing, nonverbal, not saying anything, but we're influencing somebody, every last one of us. But at the same token, few people influence a lot of people. I mean, you would literally have to be probably at the level of a CEO at a major Fortune 100 company, the president of the United States, maybe the governor of a state, especially a large state like Texas or California, even New York in terms of population. I mean, they influence a lot of people, but most of us don't really influence a lot of people, but every one of us influences someone. So that's why we're taking this questionnaire, this introspection, this inventory as we move into the new content very, very shortly. So there in the middle of your page, you'll see here that the difference between these 2 lines, and what 2 lines? The 2 lines we're talking about is your leadership potential and your leadership level. Your leadership potential and your leadership level. The difference between those 2 lines is determined by number 1, leadership. Number 2, willingness to change. Not only our willingness to change, but being able to help others to adjust to the change, because quite frankly, we live at a time and we live in a world where really there's nothing constant but change. The 4 seasons change. People change, we change cars, we change homes, We change computers, we change phones. Everything around us is constantly changing. And then number three, desire to grow. So the difference between these two lines, your leadership potential and your leadership level, is leadership, willingness to change, and desire to grow. Very, very key and very, very important. Okay, let's move on to number four. Question number four. Here's another W. When do I influence others? So when is the time right to influence others? And so the principle that governs this question is our value and significance rises when we influence others at a time when it is needed most. Oh, I have so many examples that I wish I could share with you of the timing just being perfect. When you influence others, and the principle again is our value and significance rises when we influence others at a time when it is needed most. That's really powerful. Look at the bottom of the page and Winston Churchill's quote, very, very powerful and very, very potent. And what I would like for you to do right there where you are, just take your pen or your pencil and maybe even a highlighter and circle, underline, or highlight a point or a phrase or word in Winston Churchill's phrase here that really resonates with you. Just take about a minute or so. Just highlight, circle, or underline any portion of this quote that really resonates with you, whether it's one word or one phrase. And then we'll move on to the next information. This is very, 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 very important. For Kevin, the part of this that really stands out for me is in the second sentence where it says that special opportunity. That's what really resonates with me. Okay. So keep that close to you. Your participant guide is, of course, it's yours. Reflect back on it periodically. Take a look at it. Hopefully it'll add some really, really good insight to what you're doing. All right. Let's move over here to the next page. You'll see at the very top, it starts out with Napoleon understood this reality as well. He once said, I have noticed in every campaign that I have fought that there is a key segment of time, somewhere between 13 and 15 minutes, in which that battle is won or lost. I focus on that segment of time and I win. It's all about the win. Question number four, the win. When do I influence? So here at the top of the page, I want you to always remember this because this is very key and it's very, very important. And that is that leaders are readers. I challenge every one of you to do what I do, and that is read one book a month. If you can read more than that, then that's perfectly fine, but I just challenge you to do that. It keeps your mind sharp. It gives you great ideas and insights on being a better leader. And I have always welcomed that challenge. As a matter of fact, once we get to the point where we're flying back and forth to the different cities on the airplanes, depending on my destination, sometimes I can find myself reading a book on the airplane and I'm done because I enjoy it. I absorb it. I get good information, good insight, and I take it to my next engagement, whether I'm speaking or leading a workshop or delivering some type of leadership development training or providing coaching, all of which is what I do. Oftentimes I'll pick up some new insightful information and I'm actually able to use it. So it's powerful. So leaders are able to sense, number one, teachable moments. Leaders are able to sense, number two, breakthrough places. And number three, leaders are able to sense what we call catalyst times, times that are critical. The timing is perfect to move out and to execute. All right. Now, breakthroughs occur in people and organizations when they, number one, they hurt enough that they have to change. Number two, they learn enough that they want to change. And then number 3, they receive enough that they are able to change. Powerful, powerful, powerful. People hurt enough that they have to change. We have no other way to go. I'm tired of hurting. They learn enough that they want to change. I've learned, I understand, I got it, I want to change now. And then the last one is they've received enough that they are able to change. All right, we're making good progress. Let's move into question number 4. The question number 4 is the next W, and that is why. Why do I influence others? So the principle here is why you do something will ultimately determine what you do. So the why helps us to understand what in the world we're doing. And if we're able to spend a little bit more time as leaders helping ourselves and others in our sphere of influence to understand the why, we'll get a lot further, not only in life, but in our organization and with people that we deal with on a regular basis. So right motives are crucial to people because leadership functions on the basis of trust. That's why it was my number 1 in terms of the quality and characteristics of people that I want on my team, trust. Again, right motives are crucial to people because leadership functions on the basis of trust. Look at the very bottom of the page, and you'll see where it says continual wrong motives is a result of bad character. All right. So if you remember, character was my number 2 on my list. All right. So continual wrong motives speaks volumes to the character of a person. If you make 1 mistake, okay, 2 mistakes, we can talk about it. But if they're continual and ongoing and repetitive, there's an issue with character. All right, excellent. Let's go over to the very next page. This is the very last W, question number 6. This is the last one. Where? Where do you influence others? You'll see here at the top of the page in bold, remember the position doesn't make the leader. The leader makes the position. So keep in mind that you and I lead based upon who we are, not the title or the position that we have. That's the key right there to good leadership and becoming a person of influence. So here's some top mistakes that I wanted to highlight in terms of leadership mistakes that are often made by people in the middle of the pack. All right, so the first one is this, and these are mistakes. If I'm not on top, I can't lead. Leadership is influence, not position. Number 2, when I get to the top, then I will learn to lead. That's a mistake. Number 3, if I were on top, everyone would follow. Because it's not about necessarily from where you influence. It's really more about how you influence. It's not based on title or position. And then look at number 4, the 4th mistake. When I get to the top, I'll be able to do anything. Not the case. Not the case. So keep these mistakes in mind. I see this happen a lot, especially with our leaders that are in the middle of the pack, trying to get to the top of the organization. Just continue to be who you are and influence people in a very positive way. That's what this is all about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to spend the rest of our time together focusing on this word influence. We were able to pull out some nuggets for you, and these are some great tools that you can put in your toolbox to help you on your leadership journey. And then, of course, when we're done, my contact information will be available through the conference coordinators and everybody behind the scenes that are doing a great job with putting this on. And we will be able to continue to work together and answer any questions that you might have. So let's take a look at the very first one. Over on the top of the next page, we've been talking about it already, but I wanted to reinforce. At the very top, it says influence insights. Number one, leadership is influence. We've talked about that during our first half of this workshop and seminar together. It's very, very important. It's very powerful. Look at the quote here by Harry Overstreet. The very essence of all power to influence lies in getting the other person to participate. So your influence is really tied to getting them to participate. If they're participating, then you're doing a good job. That's a sign that your influence is working. So that's what leadership is all about. Nothing more, nothing less. Look at the very next one at the bottom of the page. Our influence with others is usually not in all areas. Even as leaders, we have areas of improvement, areas of development. We have certain weaknesses and certain blind spots that we can't necessarily see. But it's very, very important to always remember that our influence is not always in all areas. So let's surround ourselves with men and women in our organizations that may have a higher level of acumen or intelligence in a given area. And it's quite okay. We surround ourselves with good people, people that we can lean on and people that we can count on. And it becomes very, very powerful in terms of the team dynamics. And that's also part of our influence as well. Let's go over to the very next page. Look at the very top. Influence comes with responsibility. Now, you could also add a couple of other, what I call abilities as well. Not only responsibility, but also influence comes with visibility, and influence comes with accountability, because it's all part of our journey as leaders. Very, very important and very, very key. So I want you to see here, look at the third bullet down under the word responsibility and also accountability and also visibility. If you take a look at that third bullet, it says, too many leaders want the perks of leadership without paying the price of leadership. So think about that in terms of our development and our ongoing work that we're doing in our leadership capacity. This conference is all about workforce development. That's what it's all about. And we are developing each other, and we are developing our gifts and our talents and our abilities to be able to move forward. Look at number 4. My influence with others is either, I mentioned it earlier, positive or negative. It's one or the other. There's not much wiggle room in between. So these tools that will go into your toolbox are teaching us to be a person of positive influence, making a positive difference in the lives of others. And it's very, very important and very, very key. Look at number 5, our influence can grow. It goes back to what we said earlier. Leaders are readers, excuse me, and we're always interested in being able to enjoy continued self-development, as well as developing others that are be all around us. So it's very key and it's very, very important. And then number 6, people of positive influence add value to others. Probably one of the more important nuggets that we'll give you. So put a little asterisk or an exclamation point next to number 6. People of positive influence add value to others. Jackie Robinson, way back in 1947, integrated the Major League Baseball, Brooklyn Dodgers, and he said life isn't significant except for its influence on our lives, right? And you can only imagine what he was thinking as he moved into the Major League Baseball realm, into that arena, into that culture, into that organization as the first African American to do so. And he had to be a huge influence on a lot of people in order to win them over. And that's exactly what he did. He just led by example, very professional, excellent at what he did, collaborative, cooperated, accepted a lot of things that were thrown at him that should not have been, but kept his demeanor and his calm, and over time was able to win people over. And professional baseball was now integrated with more and more and more different ethnicities into the ranks because this one man stood forth. And so it is with us as leaders. We are difference makers and we do influence, but be a positive influence. Look to the top of the next page. We add value to people when we do these four things. This is how we add value to people. Number one, we truly value people. It's genuine. All right. It's not fake. Usually people can pick up on whether we're genuine or not. Number two, we know and relate to what they value. Number three, we make ourselves more valuable. We're available, we're approachable, we're friendly, we're easy to talk to. And number four is we do the things that they value. So we do the things they value because we show that we do value them, we know and relate to them, and we're making ourselves valuable as well. Very, very important and very, very key. So in the middle of this page, we have for you an opportunity to come back when this session is over, and you can have the opportunity to just take your time and go to the who, the two hows, when, why, and where in terms of your influence to others. You can just sort of think about your current environment, where you currently work, your goals and dreams and aspirations as you go forward. Think about that and come back and write these down. And of course, this participant guide is for you to keep, and it'll be very, very valuable information for you to reflect on as you go forward. Okay. All right, good. So for the remainder of our time, let's dive into this word influence. Turn the page over. At the very top, you'll see where it says session 2. Session number 2, learning to become a person of influence, becoming a person of influence. And we'll spend the rest of our time here. So number 1, an influencer has integrity with people. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's important to really jot it down and write it down. Integrity with people. An influencer has integrity with people. You keep your word. You tell the truth. You show up on time. You start your meetings on time. People can count on you when you say you're going to do something or you're going to be at a certain place. It goes a very, very long way, because at the very bottom of the page, trust is the glue that holds people together. Because of your integrity, you have now earned trust. And the same thing should happen with the people that you are entrusted to lead. Ideally, they will earn your trust. And it's really the glue. It's the Scotch tape that keeps it all together. And it makes a huge difference in all that we're doing. Look at the top of the very next page. There was a survey done a number of years ago with about 1,300 executives, and it doesn't specifically identify which organization, but these are executives at the senior levels of their organization. And we just simply asked the question, what quality do you desire most in your team members? And what I'm going to ask you to do right where you are is I want you to just guess what percentage of these people said integrity. So 1,300 executives responded to the question, what quality do you desire most in your team members? What percentage do you think was their answer? And there is no wrong answer. It's just in terms of what you're thinking. And then I'll share that with you in just a few seconds. Just jot it down, whether you think it's 30%, 25%, 50%, 100%. What do you think that answer is? And I'll share it with you in just a few seconds. All right, the answer is 75%. So 3 out of 4. Now, in some cases, you may have thought it would be higher, but the question is desire most. So there's some other qualities as well, of course, but the ones that they desired the most, about 75%, 3 out of 4 said integrity. So take a look here in the middle of the page. So here are some integrity issues for influencers, for us, those of us that influence others. And so these are just questions to consider. Number one is, does my organization have good written rules around integrity? Do the leaders of the organization practice and model them for others? We're talking about integrity. Do I place the interest of my people above my own? And number 4, am I accountable to others for my action? That self-accountability, very key and very, very important. And then number 5 is already written out for you, but it simply says, since I know myself best, do I like who I am? That's a pretty important question. So it's a good idea to kind of like yourself. All right, let's turn the page next over to number 2. An influencer nurtures people. Nurtures people. Many leaders love their position more than their people. When that happens, they lose their position. And right under that, few leaders love their people more than their position. When that happens, leaders strengthen their position. So we're more focused on people than the position because we're nurturing them. We're not babysitting, we're not coddling, and we're not micromanaging, but we are nurturing them. And we're providing them opportunities, if you would, to be able to recognize and acknowledge that we care and we value them as people. Look at the very bottom of your page here under notes on nurturing people. Nurturing people does not mean needing people, N-E-E-D-I-N-G. It doesn't mean that we need them. But nurturing people does mean commitment to people. It does mean that. Number 3, nurturing people does mean loving people. Now, loving people in the sense of just treating them respectfully. The golden rule, caring and valuing for people. People need to feel that even in the workplace. They need to feel that there's some love going on, that there's some respect that's going back and forth. And then at the very top of the very next page, you'll see here that nurturing people does mean lifting people to a higher level. That's part of our charge, lifting them up, preparing them for that next level of responsibility. So key, so key. Turn the page over to the next page. And number 3 is an influencer has faith in people. Now, just below that, number 1 is assets make things happen. In other words, making sure they have everything that they need, the facilities, the tools, the training to get the job done. And then, of course, people make things happen. So assets make things possible and people make things happen. Ralph Waldo Emerson says that every person is entitled to be valued by their best moments. And that is so true. So praise publicly, but correct privately. That's part of showing that you have faith in people. Look at the very bottom of the page. It says here, in leading others, there are 3 feelings that we cannot possess. The first one is fear, because if we are afraid of people, then we can't confront them. So you can't be fearful of people. Number 2, dislike. If we dislike people, we should not lead them. And then lastly is contempt. Ugh. If we look down on people, we will not value them. Very, very important. Look at the top of the very next page. Les Giblin makes a little quote here, and we synopsize it by saying, it is wonderful when people believe in their leader. It is more wonderful when the leader believes in the people. Borrowed beliefs have no power. We become outside what we believe on the inside. So true. Lack of belief in people hurts both the leader and the people. Very, very key and very, very important. Okay, turn the page over to the next page. The next one, number 4, is listens. An influencer listens to people. And take a look at the very bottom. We spell out the word ladder for you. I want you to think about this in terms of listening, being a better listener to people. So the L stands for look. Look at the speaker. Very, very important. The A is ask. Ask questions, ideally open-ended and thought-provoking questions. The D stands for don't. Don't interrupt. Please don't interrupt. The next D is also a don't, and that is don't change the subject. So don't interrupt a person when they're in mid-thought, and don't change the subject. The E is emotion. Check your emotions, leaders. All right, we must stay calm, cool, and collected under all circumstances. So check your emotions. And then the R stands for responsive. Be a responsive listener in all that we do. Okay, very key and very important when it comes to listening. One of the great attributes that we all need to learn and do better. Here are the 4 H questions at the top of the very next page. To become a better listener. So what is their heart? Number 1. What is their hope? Number 2. What is their hurt? Number 3. And then how can I help? Very, very important. Very important. So again, when you have an opportunity to come back to your workbook, you can take this short quiz. And you can find out exactly where you are on the spectrum as it relates to your listening skills. If you're in agreement always, you give yourself a 4. And if it's a never, you give yourself a 1. And then you're able to go over to the very next page and do the scoring, and you'll find out exactly where you are. And then you can put in motion some areas where you can make some improvement. Okay. Number 5, an influencer understands people. Very key, very important. In the middle of the page, to understand the mind of a person, look at what he or she has achieved. And to understand the heart of a person, look at what he or she dreams of becoming. Okay, very key. Understanding people. One of my favorite topics to talk about. I wish I had more time to elaborate and expand. But there are two basic reasons why relationships fail. Number 1 is fear, and number 1 is selfishness. Okay, when we're selfish, it really causes the relationship to take a southward plunge. And then being fearful, because being fearful erects different barriers. All right, turn over to the very next page at the very top. Here are some things that I would like for you to write down as it relates to understanding people and being able to read people. Number 1 is get to know their background. Number 2 is to know their personality. Number 3 is get to know their giftedness. Number 4 is keys, like a door key. What are the keys to unlock that door, to kind of get into their mind and understand what makes them tick? Number 5 is relationships. Number 6 is influences, plural. What are the different things that influence their behavior and their mannerism? Number 7 is context. 8 is attitude. And we'll finish up this page by just saying that you have to see what others see, and that's relationship. And before they will see what you see is what leadership is all about, because we're visionary and we're strategic. Okay, let's jump over to the very next page. An influencer enlarges people. So a couple of questions for you is, how do you grow an organization and how do you grow people? Well, your success to growing your organization and your people is tied into 3 things. Number 1, knowing your purpose in life, growing to your maximum potential, and sowing seeds that benefit others. Knowing your purpose in life, growing to your maximum potential, and sowing seeds that benefit others. Very, very key. Next page, number 7 is navigates. As we kind of come to a close, navigates for people. So you and I are like a GPS. And when we see people going the wrong way, we recalibrate, we reroute and bring them back. And so here in the middle of the page on the navigates, there are those who can see the problem ahead and avoid it. There are those who can experience the problem and fix it. And then there are those who cannot see the problem or fix it, and they just become overwhelmed. Okay. And we want to help them. That's how we help to navigate on their behalf. So a leader is one who sees more than others see. A leader is one who sees farther than others see. And a leader is one who sees before others see. That's what leadership is all about. And that's what navigation is all about. All right, let's go over to the very next page. Number 8 is connects. An influencer connects with people because credibility plus communication is what equals connection. All right, credibility plus communication equals connection. Let me run through why people connect when they communicate. These are some reasons why. Number 1 is relationships. Number 2 is sacrifice. Number 3 is insight. Number 4 is experience. Number 5 is abilities. Number 6 is intuition. Number 7 is character. There's that word again. Number 8 is humility. Number 9 is relevance. And the last one is convictions. Okay. I am going to skip this next page and move over into number 9. Number 9, an influencer empowers others. And what I would like for you to do is come back to your participant guide and take a look at these different questions and fill in the gaps and fill in the blanks. When you get an opportunity, write it out. This is all a part of your leadership journey, and it will help you as you continue to grow and develop and mature and to understand becoming a person of influence. So these are some questions to ask yourself as it relates to how you go about empowering others. And then last but not least, on the very last page over here to your right, the last one is reproduces. An influencer reproduces others. You want to reproduce others after you. So 85% of leaders attract followers. 10% of leaders attract leaders, but 5% of leaders actually reproduce other leaders. So this is all about becoming a person of influence. And so the question is, how can I reproduce others? Number one is just model good leadership. Number two, provide leadership training. Number three, provide leadership resources. Number four, provide leadership experiences. And then last, but certainly not least, create a growth environment. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my absolute pleasure to spend this last hour with you. Again, Kevin Wayne Johnson, CEO of the Johnson Leadership Group. It's been a pleasure being with you and having the opportunity to walk you through this. If at all I can answer any questions or any other feedback that you might have, please reach out to me. All of the contact information will be available. I will be more than happy to continue the discussion and continue the dialogue. My time is up, and I thank you for yours. Have a great rest of the conference and a wonderful leadership journey.